There are people who carry many big dreams within them. They want to start a business, learn new skills, or build a better life. But before they even begin taking action, they quickly tell everyone about their plans. At first, this feels wonderful. The praise, admiration, and encouragement from others create the feeling that they are already very close to success. However, that very feeling quietly steals away their real motivation to act. Simon was one of those people. Every week, he had a new idea. Sometimes he wanted to open a shop. Other times he wanted to learn pottery or build a house. But one thing was always the same. Simon would go around the village announcing his plans to everyone. People praised him and believed he would accomplish something great. He felt proud and happy, but only a few days later, the excitement faded away. In the end, none of his plans were ever completed. One day, an elder taught Simon a lesson using 2 seeds. One seed was buried in the soil and quietly cared for, while the other was shown off to everyone and then left forgotten on a rock. After some time, the seed hidden in the earth grew into a healthy green sprout, while the seed exposed outside dried up and disappeared. The elder explained that dreams are like seeds. They need silence, patience, and quiet effort in order to grow. When we talk too much about our plans, the energy meant for action is consumed by words and by the recognition we receive from others. Sometimes, the best thing we can do is not to talk endlessly about our goals, but to work quietly until the results speak for themselves. After understanding the elder's lesson, Simon began to reflect on himself. He realized that for many years, he had been living with the feeling of already succeeding simply because of other people's praise. Every time he shared a new plan, he received attention, admiration, and encouragement from the villagers. It made him happy for a moment, but it also caused his motivation to slowly disappear. He had never truly persevered with anything. From that day on, Simon decided to change. He stopped talking about his plans. This time, he chose a very small goal: to build a wooden chair. With his own hands. No one in the village knew about it. He didn't announce it or seek encouragement or recognition. After work each day, Simon quietly went to a small corner behind his house and worked with old pieces of wood. At first, nothing was easy. Some days he made mistakes and had to take everything apart and start over. There were moments when he felt tired and wanted to quit, just as he always had before. But because no one knew about his project, there was no pressure to prove anything. Simon focused only on each small step, each cut, and each adjustment. That silence helped him become more persistent. After many weeks, the chair was finally finished. Sitting on something he had created with his own hands gave Simon a completely different kind of joy. It was not pride that came from praise, but deep satisfaction from truly completing something through his own effort. When a neighbor saw the chair and asked in surprise when he had made it, Simon simply smiled gently. He understood that real achievements do not need too much advertisement. From then on, Simon continued to work quietly, step by step building his skills and his life. In the end, his actions and results earned him far more respect than his words ever had before. Over time, Simon became a completely different person. He no longer rushed to share grand plans or seek attention from others. Instead, he chose to work in silence. After making his first wooden chair, Simon went on to build a small table, then bookshelves, stools, and many other pieces of furniture. Every finished product helped him become more skilled, more patient, and more confident in his own abilities. What was special was that Simon no longer felt the need to gain approval from others at the beginning. He understood that words do not create results, only actions do. Every day, he quietly learned, corrected mistakes, and improved his craftsmanship. Even when the work was difficult or time-consuming, Simon remained persistent because he had finally discovered joy in the process itself. Gradually, the villagers began to notice the things Simon created. They were surprised by how much he had changed. No longer the young man who only talked about dreams, Simon had become a skilled and trustworthy craftsman. What made people respect him was not his grand promises, but the real results standing before them. Simon also realized something important. When dreams are kept quiet in their early stages, they are protected. Silence allowed him to preserve his motivation and focus. He was no longer distracted by praise or pressured by expectations from others. That silence made him stronger. Simon's story reminds us that not every plan needs to be announced immediately. Sometimes, The best way to turn dreams into reality is to begin quietly, work persistently, and allow the results to speak for themselves. In life, many people love sharing their big plans the moment an idea appears. They talk about goals, plans, and future success with excitement and confidence. At first, this feels positive because they receive attention, praise, and encouragement. But that early satisfaction can also rob them of the motivation to continue acting. Simon used to be one of those people. He had many dreams, but he never truly followed through with any of them. Only after meeting the elder and learning the lesson of the two seeds did he understand the real reason why. One seed, quietly buried underground and patiently cared for every day, slowly grew into a strong young plant. The other seed, shown off to everyone and abandoned under the harsh sun and wind, quickly dried out. Through this lesson, Simon realized that dreams are like seeds. To grow, they require time, protection, focus, and quiet effort. After learning this lesson, Simon completely changed his way of living. He stopped talking about his plans and began focusing on action instead. There were no more grand declarations. He quietly worked every day, learned patiently, and corrected his mistakes. Silence helped him protect his energy and concentration. He no longer depended on praise from others to feel proud. Instead, he found true joy in the process of creating something with his own hands and effort. Over time, Simon became a skilled craftsman respected by the entire village. But what made people admire him was not what he once said, it was what he had truly accomplished. His story reminds us that sometimes the most important thing is not telling the world what we are going to do, but quietly persevering until the results appear. When success becomes great enough, it speaks for itself without needing any introduction. Simon's life completely changed once he learned how to remain silent about his dreams. Before, he always excitedly told everyone about his grand plans, only to abandon them halfway through. After learning from the elder, Simon understood that talking too early could destroy the motivation to act. So he chose to work quietly instead of seeking attention. Every day, Simon silently focused on his work. He no longer cared about what others thought or whether they recognized him. The only thing that mattered was his own progress. From someone who easily gave up, Simon gradually became more persistent. He accepted mistakes, learned how to fix them, and continued trying no matter how difficult the work became. As time passed, the furniture Simon created became more beautiful and refined. The villagers began noticing his talent. They were surprised because Simon was no longer the young man who only talked about dreams. He had become someone who truly acted. The things he created became the best introduction to who he really was. More importantly, Simon discovered a feeling he had never experienced before, the deep satisfaction that comes from genuine achievement. It was not the short-lived happiness of receiving praise, but the lasting pride of seeing his hard work rewarded. He realized that success does not come from telling people what you are going to do. It comes from consistent effort every single day. Simon's story reminds us that sometimes silence itself is a form of strength. When we focus on action instead of excessive talking, we give ourselves a much greater chance of turning dreams into reality. After many years of changing himself, Simon finally became a completely different person from who he once was. He was no longer the young man who talked endlessly about grand plans only to quit shortly afterward. Instead, Simon learned to work quietly and let his results prove everything. That transformation slowly made his life better. Every day, Simon continued working persistently without needing attention or praise from anyone. He understood that true success does not come from others believing in you, but from your own determination to keep going until the end. From the simple wooden items he first created, his skills steadily improved. Every chair, table, and bookshelf he built carried great care and dedication. Eventually, the villagers began speaking about Simon with admiration. They no longer remembered him as a dreamer who only talked. Instead, they saw him as a talented and dependable craftsman. What was remarkable was that Simon never needed to promote himself. His work and achievements built his reputation naturally. Through his journey, Simon realized that the most valuable things are often built in silence. By no longer wasting energy talking about plans, he could focus completely on action. His daily persistence brought him not only success, but also maturity and wisdom. Simon's story delivers a simple yet powerful lesson. Do not rush to share every dream with the world. Quietly nurture your goals with action, patience, and persistence. When the results finally appear, people will see them without needing any explanation. Simon's story is not only about one man changing himself, but also a meaningful lesson for anyone chasing a dream. In life, many people have the habit of sharing every plan the moment it appears as an idea. They speak about their goals with excitement and hope for recognition from others. The praise and encouragement make them feel happy, but at the same time, they can slowly destroy the real motivation to act. Simon experienced this for many years. Every time he announced a new plan, he felt as though he was already close to success. Yet after the applause and compliments faded, so did his motivation. Only after understanding the elders' lesson about the seeds did Simon realize that young dreams need to be protected in silence. Just as a seed must remain hidden beneath the soil before it can grow, human goals also require time, focus, and quiet effort to develop. After changing himself, Simon stopped talking so much about his plans. Instead, he worked diligently every day and allowed the results to speak for themselves. That quiet persistence helped him grow, succeed, and earn far more respect than before. The most important lesson Simon learned was that true pride does not come from words, but from achievements created through one's own effort. This story is also a reminder for all of us. Not every plan needs to be announced immediately. Sometimes, the more we talk about our goals, the more energy and focus we lose. Instead of seeking early recognition from others, we should spend our time acting and remaining persistent on the path we have chosen. When a tree grows large enough, people will naturally notice it without anyone introducing it. Success is the same way. What matters is not what you say, but what you ultimately accomplish.